All right, class, let's get started. If you've ever tried to learn Mandarin Chinese, you've probably hit the same wall we all do. I'm talking about the tones. They can feel, well, impossible to get right consistently. But what if I told you the secret to finally nailing them isn't just about what you hear or say, but it's actually in your hands? Today, we're going to break down a super simple physical trick to make those tricky Mandarin tones finally click into place.
Now, this might sound like the setup to a bad joke, but believe me, this is one of the most common and hilarious mistakes for anyone learning Mandarin. You see, the word for mother is ma with a high, flat tone. But the word for horse? That's ma, with a tone that dips down and comes back up. The only thing separating those two words is the shape of your pitch. Get it wrong, and well, you could find yourself in a pretty memorable situation.
And this whole mother or horse problem really gets to the absolute heart of the matter. See, in a language like English, we use pitch, what we call intonation, to show emotion or to ask a question. Your voice goes up at the end of a sentence. But in Mandarin, it's a whole different ballgame. The pitch is baked right into the definition of the word itself.
So you have to understand, a tone isn't just some fancy accent or a bit of stylistic flair. Nope, it's as crucial as the consonants and vowels. If you change the tone, you literally change the word. Imagine this, you're trying to order some delicious soup, which is tongue, first tone. But if your voice accidentally goes up, you've just said tongue, second tone, which means candy. You can see why getting this right from day one is so important.
Okay, so what exactly are we talking about when we say tones? From a linguistic point of view, it helps to have a really clear definition. Because, as with anything, understanding the concept is the very first step toward actually mastering the skill. For those of us who grew up speaking non-tonal languages, our brains are basically wired to hear changes in pitch as a motion or a question. So trying to hear it as part of the word, it's like our brains are running the wrong software. That's why just listening and repeating over and over again often doesn't cut it. Our ears just aren't trained to hear it. So we need to bring another sense into the learning process.
And that is where this brilliant little trick comes into play. We're going to use a simple but incredibly powerful mnemonic technique. It uses hand gestures to help you physically feel the shape of each tone. You're basically anchoring the sound to a physical movement.
The process couldn't be simpler. You just identify the tone you need to make, you recall the specific hand gesture for it, you make that physical motion, and then, and this is the key part, you let your voice produce a sound that follows your hand. It's that easy. Let's walk through the gesture for each of the four main tones.
All right, time to put this into practice. We're going to go through the four main tones of Mandarin one by one, and I really want you to do these gestures along with me. Seriously, no one's watching. The physical part is what makes all the difference, I promise.
Let's kick things off with the first tone. In Pinyin, this one's called in ping. I want you to think of it like a single musical note that you just hold, high and steady. It doesn't go up, it doesn't go down, just straight and level. Like our example, ma for mother. Now the gesture for this one is completely intuitive. Just hold your hand out, flat, palm facing down. As you say the word, move your hand forward in a straight, level line, just like the little line you see over the vowel. High and flat. Come on, try it with me. Ma. See? Feel how your hand just guides your voice along that flat path?
Okay, next up is the second tone, or yang ping. This one goes up. It sounds a lot like how your voice naturally rises in English when you ask a question with a bit of surprise, like, you did? It starts in the middle of your vocal range and just goes up smoothly. And the gesture is just as logical. You start your hand down low, maybe around your chest, and just sweep it upwards in a nice smooth curve, like you're drawing that rising tone mark in the air. Let your voice follow it. Our example is ma, which means hemp. Ready? Start low and go high. Ma.
All right, now for the one that trips up almost every single learner, the third tone, sheng sheng. This is the dipping tone. Your voice has to go down first, and you should feel it get a little low, almost creaky in your throat, and then it has to come back up.
This is where the gesture becomes an absolute lifesaver. You're going to make a V shape, or a little check mark, in the air with your hand. Down first, then up. And your voice just traces that exact same path. So for ma, meaning horse, you dip down, and then rise up. Try it. Ma. Your hand is doing all the hard work here.
And last but not least, we have the fourth tone, or qiu sheng. This one is sharp, it's fast, it's decisive, it starts up high and just drops like a rock. Think about how you'd say a short, sharp command in English, like stop or down. That's the feeling.
So for the gesture, think of a quick downward karate chop. It's not a slow drift down, it is a sudden drop. Start your hand high,
and just slice it down toward the floor. Let your voice fall just as sharply. The example here is ma, which means to scold. Ready? Let's chop. Ma. So, let's put two of these side by side to really drive the point home. Let's take the first tone, ma, a steady, level hand motion, high and flat. Now let's do the fourth tone, ma, a sharp, downward chop. The huge physical difference between those two hand motions makes the sound difference crystal clear, doesn't it?
Now, you might be thinking, this is all just a silly classroom trick, some hand-waving thing. But actually, there is some very real learning science behind why this is so incredibly effective, especially for those of us who didn't grow up speaking a tonal language.
Think about it. The idea of a pitch contour is pretty abstract, but a hand gesture, that's concrete. It's physical. It's something you can feel. This is what educators call kinesthetic learning, which is just a fancy way of saying learning by doing. You're creating a physical anchor for a sound's concept, and that builds much, much stronger memory pathways in your brain.
And that right there is the crucial shift. You're no longer just trying to remember an abstract sound, you're remembering a concrete feeling, the feeling of your hand dipping and rising, and your voice has a physical map it can follow. You are moving past simple memorization, and you're truly starting to internalize the language.
By physically engaging with what we're learning, we can unlock these incredibly powerful new ways to understand really abstract ideas. This simple technique for Mandarin tones is a perfect example of that. So the next time you find yourself stuck on a really difficult concept, maybe you should ask yourself this: what if the key isn't just in your head, but it's also in your hands?